All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling public relations. PR.
Yeah, PR. It's kind of crucial if you want anyone to actually hear what you're saying.
Right. Like if you've got a brand or you're in marketing or heck, just want to get your point across.
Totally.
And we've got a real PR pro with us to help unpack it all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brando. He's been doing this for over 25 years, working with some seriously big name brands.
Huh, interesting. Like what?
The kind of brands everyone knows, but maybe don't realize how much work goes on behind the scenes to make them so recognizable.
The unsung heroes of the brand world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's not just about those big guys. He's also really passionate about what he calls hidden champions.
Hidden champions.
Yeah, the company's doing amazing things that don't always get the spotlight they deserve.
I see. So how's he bringing these hidden champions into the light?
Well, he's got the Brando Group.
Okay.
It's a global network of specialists.
Gotcha.
And he's got his own podcast, B+I, all about empowering people and, well, brands to do more, be more.
Be more. I like that.
Right. And his whole philosophy is about that. Be more connected, be more inspired, even be more challenged.
Yeah, it's like a constant push to kind of level up.
Exactly. So before we get to his whole messaging house thing, which is super interesting, by the way,
Oh, yeah.
can we just back up for a second, talk about PR in general?
Sure.
Why is it so important, especially now when everyone's shouting their message from the rooftops online?
Well, at its core, PR is about managing how a company talks to everyone else.
Okay.
Like customers, investors, the media, even just the general public.
That's a lot of talking.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's all about building up a good reputation,
Yeah.
managing how people see you.
So it's not just about getting your name in the news or spinning some story.
Not at all. In fact, the best PR, you don't even notice it.
Really?
Yeah, it's all the groundwork. Building trust so that when you do have something to say, people are already listening.
Like setting the stage so your message can actually land. But what about when things go sideways? Because let's face it, even the shiniest image can crack. That's where crisis PR comes in, right?
Got it. Crisis PR, it's like the emergency team for communication. You hope you never need it, but when you do, boy, are you glad you have it.
And from what I hear, Brando's been through his share of crises. What does he say about handling those kinds of situations?
Well, the big thing for him is preparation. You got to have a plan, like a PR crisis management manual.
A manual.
Yeah. All the steps, all the responses for anything you can think of.
So if a crisis hits, you're not scrambling.
Exactly. And this manual, it can't just be a PR team thing. Everyone in the company needs to be in the loop.
Company-wide preparation.
Yep. And then he also talks about having a special team, like your core PR crisis management team.
Okay, so a team of experts ready to go.
Right. From different departments, all trained to handle different parts of a crisis. Legal, communication, the whole shebang.
So you've got the manual, you got the team.
Yeah.
What else?
Practice. You got to train, run through different scenarios. He's always saying people change faster than you can keep track.
Meaning?
You always got to be ready. You got to be adaptable.
Makes sense. Like a fire drill?
Yeah.
But for PR nightmares? So we've covered the basics and dipped our toes into crisis management.
Right. But now let's get to the fun stuff. This messaging house idea.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about that.
It's pretty clever, actually.
All right, lead the way.
Let's get into it.
So tell me, what exactly is this messaging house?
Well, think of it like a framework, a way to build your message and make sure it's strong,
Okay, and Brando thinks this is super important.
Oh, yeah. He's like, if you don't have a messaging house, your brand's in trouble. Kind of scary, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But why? Why is it so important?
Well, think about it. We're drowning in information these days.
Right.
Everyone's trying to get our attention.
Sure.
So how do you cut through all that noise? How do you make people actually remember what you're saying?
Right, you need a plan, not just throw stuff out there and hope it sticks.
Exactly. And that's where the messaging house comes in. It's like your blueprint. So no matter what you're saying, whether it's like a tweet or a big presentation to investors, it all ties back to the same core message.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually build this messaging house? What are the pieces?
Okay, so imagine an actual house. The foundation, the most important part.
Yeah.
That's your central message. The one thing you really want people to know.
Gotcha. That's the base. What about the rest of it?
The walls, the roof, all that. Those are your pillars.
Pillars.
Yeah. Brando says there should be 3. Each one supports your main message, but from a different angle.
Like different sides of the same story.
Kinda. So maybe one pillar is about your product features, another one's about your company values, whatever makes sense for your brand.
I see. So it's not just saying the same thing over and over.
Hmm.
You're giving people different ways to understand the same core idea.
Yeah. And then for each pillar, you have all the backup, the facts, the data, even stories, things that make your message believable.
So it's kind of like building a strong argument. You have your point, and then you back it up with evidence.
Exactly. So no matter who's talking about your company, they've got all the right info at their fingertips.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. It's all about consistency and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Right. Especially when you're talking to the media, which, remember, Brando's a little wary of them sometimes.
Yeah, he's definitely big on being prepared when dealing with the press.
Well, in a crisis, things can get messy. Reporters are under pressure, deadlines and all that. They might not always be super friendly.
Right, they've got to get the story.
Exactly. And that's where the messaging house is so helpful. It's like, okay, no matter what they throw at you, you've got your core message, your foundation.
You don't get rattled.
Yep. But it's not just about having the message, right? You got to know how to deliver it. And that's where Brando's ABC technique comes in.
ABC. Okay, now you've really got my attention. What's that all about?
It's for interviews. Address, bridge, communicate. Keeps you focused, keeps you on message, even when things get tough.
So it's like a way to stay in control.
Totally. Ready to break it down.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's say a reporter asks you something tricky. Maybe they're trying to catch you off guard,
Happens all the time.
First step, you address the question. Don't ignore it. Don't try to dodge it. Show them you're listening.
Okay, acknowledge it. What then?
Then you bridge to your message. Find a way to connect what they asked to one of your key points. From your messaging house, of course.
Oh, that's smart. So you're kind of steering the conversation back to your territory.
You got it. And finally, you communicate, you state your message clearly, confidently. So that's what people remember.
Address, bridge, communicate. Got it. It's like a dance. You got to know the steps.
Yeah. And practice helps. But once you get it, you can handle pretty much any interview.
This is great stuff. I can really see how the messaging house and this ABC thing, they work together. Like they're both about being prepared, knowing your message inside and out.
That's Brando for you. Always thinking ahead, anticipating the challenges.
He's giving people the tools to be better communicators.
Right.
Whether it's for a company or even just like in everyday life.
Absolutely. I think that's the point, right?
So we've talked crisis management, we've talked messaging. What about Brando himself? What kind of experience is he bringing to all this?
Well, he's worked with some big names, but one that stands out is Medea Group. It's a huge appliance company, global.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Wasn't he in charge of their PR or something?
More than that, he actually wrote most of their press releases.
Wait, seriously? Like how many are we talking?
He said something like 82% of all the ones on their websites. It's crazy, right?
That's a lot of press releases. He must really know how to get the media's attention.
He does. And it's not just press releases. He's helped them build their whole communication strategy.
From small details to the big picture.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Crisis management, the messaging house, this ABC technique. What's the main takeaway for our listeners? What should they walk away with?
I think the biggest thing is communication isn't just about winging it. It takes strategy, preparation. You need the right tools.
You can't just hope for the best. You got to be in control of your message.
And you got to be adaptable. Remember what Brando says, people change faster than you can keep track.
So keep learning, keep evolving.
Exactly. It's a journey.
So if someone's listening to all this, what's the one thing you really want them to remember? About PR, about communicating, all of it.
That's a good question. I think it all comes down to being prepared. Like, really prepared.
Right, like that saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yeah. Something like that.
Exactly. Whether it's your brand's message or how you handle a tough interview or, even a full-blown crisis. The more prepared you are, the better you'll handle it.
Don't wait till it hits the fan.
Nope. Start building that strategy now.
And for folks who want to learn more, what resources would you recommend? Where should they go?
Well, Brando's got his company, the Brando Group. They do all kinds of branding and communication work.
Right, so they could help with, like, building a messaging house.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Content creation, crisis management, the whole 9 yards.
And, of course, there's his podcast, B+E, which is all about, empowering people, like we talked about earlier.
Yep. Tons of great advice there from Brando himself and other experts.
Perfect. We'll definitely put links to all that in the show notes. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. A little challenge.
Sounds fun. What is it?
So we've talked a lot about the messaging house, for companies, for brands. But what about for you personally?
Oh, interesting.
What would your messaging house look like? What are your core messages, the things you want people to know about you?
Huh. That's a really good question. One I think we should all be asking ourselves, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because in a way, everyone has a personal brand these days, whether they think about it that way or not.
It's true. And we all have the power to shape that brand, to use communication to, achieve our goals, show the world who we are.
This has been a fantastic deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing all these insights.
Happy to be here. It's been a great conversation. Really enjoy it.
And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. We hope you learned something new about the world of PR. And remember, this stuff isn't just for the pros.
It's for anyone who wants to communicate better, more effectively, more powerfully.
So go out there, find your voice, and make it heard. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. To do more, be more.
Be more. I like that.
Be more connected, be more inspired, even be more challenged.
Yeah, it's like a constant push to kind of level up.
Exactly.